David gazed at the sky as the sun set, feeling the warmth of its sleepy colors on his face. He watched the orange, pink, and gold blend together, and he paused to breathe in the beauty, letting the peace of evening settle in his heart. David stood on the ancient hills of Judea, feeling the weight of history beneath his feet. He imagined the prophets and kings who once walked there, and he wondered what stories the land would tell if it could speak. David watched over his father's sheep, his eyes reflecting the last light of day. He felt small against the vast hills, but he knew his role was important. David found comfort in the quiet valley below, where his sheep grazed peacefully. He listened to the gentle sounds of nature and felt God's presence in the stillness. David knew he was not a soldier or a king. He wore no armor and carried no crown, but he was content to be a shepherd, faithful in his simple calling. David, the youngest brother, spent his days alone with his flock, far from battles and royal courts. He found purpose in caring for each sheep with gentle hands and a devoted heart. David cherished his solitude. With his harp, he played soft melodies, letting the music rise into the evening air and fill his soul with joy. David kept his sling close, a simple tool he had mastered through practice and patience. David treasured his friendship with God, finding strength and comfort in prayer. He trusted that God listened to every word he spoke. David knew every rock in the fields and every stream that flowed through the land. David led his sheep with gentle care, calling each one by name and learning their unique ways. He felt responsible for their safety and happiness. As night fell, David watched the stars appear, feeling wonder at the vastness above him. David played his harp beneath the stars, letting his music echo through the hills and comfort his heart. David sang songs about his sheep, the beauty he saw, and the greatness of God who watched over him. David's voice rose in praise, offering his music to God as a sign of his faith and love. David's sheep gathered close, soothed by the gentle sound of his music and the calm in his presence. David comforted his flock, offering them rest and safety. He felt their trust and knew he would always protect them. David looked up at the night sky, feeling small but never alone, knowing God watched over him in the fields. David learned to be brave, facing every danger to protect his sheep, trusting that God would give him strength. David became resilient, never giving up even when things were hard, because he believed God was with him. David discovered that true courage came from trusting God, relying on his guidance in every moment. David's strength came from his faith, not from what others could see, but from knowing God was always with him. David's brothers fought in battles, but David served quietly in the fields, knowing his work mattered to God. David's acts of service were hidden from the world, but he offered them faithfully, trusting that God saw every moment. David felt God's companionship in every task, never feeling alone as he cared for his flock. David spoke to God as a friend, sharing his thoughts, fears and hopes with honesty and trust. David held nothing back, pouring out his heart in every prayer, believing God cared about everything he felt. In the quiet, David sensed God listening, offering him comfort and gentle guidance. David learned to trust God in small things, finding strength in the ordinary moments of his life as a shepherd. David received no applause, no crowds, and no recognition, but he was content with God's presence. David, his sheep, and God formed a sacred bond in the stillness of the night. Each day, David's faith grew as he trusted God more deeply, letting his heart blossom with hope. The fields became David's secret school, a place where he learned and grew each day. David's faith grew strong, nurtured by challenges and quiet moments of reflection. David learned to trust God with every part of his life, surrendering his fears, dreams, and future into God's loving hands. Each morning, David woke before the sun, stretching in the cool air as the world was still quiet. He felt the gentle promise of a new day and thanked God for the light. He gathered his staff and sling, counting his sheep one by one, making sure each was safe and close. David led his flock to green pastures, guiding them with gentle words and careful steps, always watching for danger. As he walked, David talked quietly to God, sharing his hopes and worries, feeling God's presence like a friend beside him. To others, he was just a boy with a staff and a sling, but David knew he was never alone. God listened to every word. The open fields became David's sanctuary. Every cloud, every wildflower reminded him of God's power and love. David's faith grew quietly, deep inside his heart, making him feel strong and safe, even when he was alone. When a wolf crept near at dusk, David stood ready, gripping his sling and trusting God to help him protect his sheep. He practiced with his sling, not just to become skilled, but to build his trust in God with every stone he threw. David knew he was small, but with God beside him, he could face anything that came his way. Every day, David learned responsibility, courage, and patience, lessons that shaped his heart and made him a true leader. In the quiet fields, David's faith became unshakable. He felt God's presence in sunshine and in shadows every single day. I remember that afternoon, the sun sinking low, the sky ablaze with orange and gold. My sheep grew restless and a chill crept up my spine. Something was wrong. I felt it before I saw it, a tremor in the air, a silence that pressed on my chest. Danger was near. My eyes scanned the horizon, heart pounding. There, a lion, muscles rippling, moving through the tall grass. I froze, fear prickling my skin. One of my lambs, alone and helpless, was in its path. I wanted to run, but love for my flock and trust in God held me steady. My hands trembled as I gripped my staff. I whispered a prayer, God, help me. I remembered his faithfulness, and courage flickered inside me. I could not let fear win. I had to act. I ran toward the lion, shouting with all my might. My voice shook, but I would not let the beast take what was mine. The lion lunged, jaws closing around the lamb. My heart nearly stopped, but I kept running. My staff felt small in my hands, but I remembered my sling, my old friend from countless hours of practice. I reached for it, my fingers steady now, faith rising above fear. With a deep breath, I let my sling fly. I felt God with me, his strength in my arm, his courage in my heart. The stone struck true, and I rushed forward, striking the lion with my staff. The lion roared, furious and wild. For a moment I thought I would be lost, but I stood my ground, heart pounding, trusting God to give me strength. I fought for the lamb, not for glory, but because it was mine to protect. At last, the lion fell. I gathered the trembling lamb in my arms, relief and gratitude flooding through me. No one saw my victory, only God, who had delivered me. Alone in the wilderness, I knelt and thanked God for his help. My heart still raced, but I knew these secret battles were shaping me. My courage was not my own. It was a gift from the God who saw me. I carried the lamb back to the flock, the stars shining above. I realized then God was preparing me for something greater, forging my heart in the quiet fields, one secret victory at a time. The seasons shifted around me, spring's green, autumn's gold. Yet my days by the brook felt unchanged. I watched the water flow, my heart quietly trusting God with every sunrise and sunset. That morning, as I prayed, I asked God to watch over my flock. My faith felt strong, woven into every simple task. I believed he was near, even when I was alone. Suddenly I heard the brook's song break, a heavy rustle, a shadow moving. My heart pounded as I saw the bear, huge and wild, stepping from the trees toward my sheep. Fear surged through me, but I remembered God's help with the lion. I whispered, Lord, help me. The sheep scattered, their cries sharp in the air, as the bear lunged for a lamb. I ran, shouting, my staff raised high. My mind raced. God, give me courage! The bear's roar thundered, but I would not let fear win. The bear dropped the lamb and turned on me, its eyes wild. I dodged, feeling God's strength surge within me, and struck with my staff, my only weapon, my only hope. The struggle was fierce, man against beast. I clung to God's promise, refusing to let go. At last, the bear fled, and the lamb was safe in my arms. Alone in the quiet, I knelt and thanked God. No one saw my battle, only the sheep, the brook, and my faithful God. My heart knew every victory was His. Each secret battle built my faith, shaping me for greater things. I learned that courage is trusting God even when no one else sees. God was preparing me for a destiny beyond the pasture. Every danger faced, every prayer whispered, was a lesson in faith and trust. My heart was changed by these secret victories. I was not alone. God's strength would always guide me no matter what came next. In the quiet fields, God was shaping a shepherd's heart into a king's, and I knew with every trial that He was with me. Time passed, and I found myself standing in King Saul's tent, far from the quiet fields I once called home. Outside, the giant Goliath taunted Israel's army, and fear gripped every heart. I had come only to bring food to my brothers, but when I heard Goliath's challenge, my heart burned within me. I told Saul, "Let no one lose heart because of this Philistine. I will go and fight him." Saul looked at me and saw only a boy, but I began to share my story. My secret battles fought in the fields. I said, "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it. I struck it and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it." I was not boasting, but testifying to God's faithfulness. The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will deliver me from this Philistine. My strength did not come from armor or weapons, but from my history with God, private victories that became my public confidence. The tent grew quiet as I spoke of God's deliverance. Saul listened, realizing my courage was real. I was ready to face Goliath, trusting the God who had always delivered me. My secret battles had prepared me for this moment. David trained in the quiet fields, learning to trust God with every challenge he faced. He remembered the lion and the bear, victories won when no one was watching, and his faith grew stronger. Alone, David prayed and trusted God, knowing each private struggle was preparing him for something greater. With every day, David's courage and faith were shaped by God's hand, far from the eyes of the world. When the day came to face Goliath, David stood ready, his heart prepared by every unseen victory in the pasture. David's trust in God was his greatest weapon, forged in the quiet moments when only God could see. In the pasture, David became more than a shepherd. He became a leader, prepared by God for a greater purpose. As David stood before Goliath, his heart was steady, not because of his own strength, but because of his unwavering faith in God. He remembered every moment God had delivered him before. Even when he was afraid, he chose to trust. David's courage was rooted in the memories of God's faithfulness, each victory a reminder that he was never alone. These memories became his armor and his shield, stronger than any weapon he could carry. To Saul, David declared with confidence, "The Lord who rescued me from the lion and the bear will rescue me from this giant." David believed that the God who had been with him in the past would be with him in the battle ahead. The same God who gave him strength in secret would give him victory in the open. This kind of faith changes everything. It is built on a foundation of trust in God's promises. When you face your own giants, remember David's journey, how faith and courage can overcome any obstacle. God uses the quiet struggles and hidden battles to prepare you for greater things ahead. He is building a foundation of faith within you, just as He did with David. You can stand with confidence and say, "The Lord who helped me before will help me again." Our God is a God who delivers. He is always with you, just as He was with David. Thank you for joining us on this journey. As you step into your own story, remember, every quiet act of faith shapes a greater victory ahead. May courage and hope light your path today and always.